Hi there. If you're reading this, chances are you've stumbled upon the most bizarre day of my life. A day where I thought I was in control but ended up being the one interviewed instead of interviewing others. My name is Lila Hartman, and trust me when I say that nothing about my story is ordinary. Before we dive into the chaos, let me tell you a little about myself. I'm your typical overachiever, meticulous, ambitious, and always 5 steps ahead of everyone else, or so I like to think. I live in a cozy apartment in New York City, surrounded by books on leadership and sticky notes with motivational quotes like, "Success isn't given, it's earned." Sounds inspiring, right? Well, buckle up, because what happened next will make you question whether success is worth all the drama. Today wasn't just any other day, it was the day. After months of grueling preparation, I had landed an opportunity to interview for a dream role at Vanguard Innovations, one of Europe's hottest tech companies expanding to the US. But here's the kicker. I wasn't the one being grilled. I was the one doing the grilling. Yep, they wanted me to evaluate potential team members as part of their hiring process. Talk about pressure. Oh, and did I mention my family decided to crash the event? Yeah, you heard that right. So if this sounds like your kind of story, one filled with humor, heartbreak, and a few too many awkward moments, stick around. You won't regret it. Hit subscribe or bookmark this page because things are about to get wild. The morning started off perfectly fine, or as perfect as mornings can be when you're running on 3 cups of coffee and 0 sleep. I woke up early, dressed in my sharpest navy blue blazer, and rehearsed my opening lines until they sounded natural enough not to scare anyone away. Everything seemed under control until my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my family. "Lila, we're coming to support you," my mom wrote. My stomach dropped. Support? Knowing my family, support usually means showing up uninvited and making everything 10 times harder. Still, I couldn't exactly tell them no without sounding ungrateful, so I reluctantly agreed. Big mistake. When I arrived at Vanguard Innovations' sleek Manhattan office, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. The building looked like something out of a sci-fi movie, all glass walls and minimalist furniture. Mr. Adrian Falk, the CEO himself, greeted me with a firm handshake and a warm smile. He explained how critical this hiring process was for the company's expansion plans and assured me he trusted my judgment completely. Great, no pressure then. Just as I began setting up the conference room, disaster struck, or rather my family walked in. My brother Elliot was wearing a neon Hawaiian shirt that screamed tourist, while my mom carried a giant tote bag overflowing with snacks she insisted were good luck charms. And my dad, let's just say his attempt at small talk with the receptionist made me want to crawl under the table. As soon as my family settled into the corner of the conference room like they owned the place, I knew I was in trouble. Mr. Falk raised an eyebrow but didn't comment, probably assuming they were clients or colleagues. Bless him for not asking questions. When the first candidate walked in, a nervous young man named Ryan, I tried to focus on the task at hand. I smiled warmly, introduced myself, and launched into my carefully prepared script. Tell me about a time when you faced a challenge at work and how you overcame it. Easy enough, right? Wrong. Before Ryan could even finish his answer, my mom interrupted. "Oh dear, don't worry about challenges," she said, leaning forward with the enthusiasm of someone who has absolutely no filter. "Just tell her you'll work hard, and everything will fall into place." Ryan blinked, clearly unsure whether to laugh or cry. I clenched my jaw and forced a polite smile, reminding myself that strangling your own mother in front of a Fortune 500 CEO would look bad on my resume. Meanwhile, Elliot whispered loudly to my dad, "Do you think they have Wi-Fi here? I need to check my fantasy football scores." At this point, I wasn't sure whether to scream or start charging admission for the circus act unfolding before me. By the second interview, I was starting to suspect my family wasn't here to support me, they were actively trying to sabotage me. Take Martha, for example. She leaned over to another candidate, whispering, "Don't forget to negotiate your salary. Lila never asks for raises, so you should definitely push for more." Thanks, Mom, for broadcasting my financial struggles to strangers. Then there was Elliot, who somehow managed to hack into the presentation projector halfway through the session. Instead of displaying my carefully curated slides, the screen lit up with embarrassing photos of me as a teenager, braces, frizzy hair, and all. I could feel the candidates exchanging uncomfortable glances, some stifling laughter while others shifted awkwardly in their seats. Even Sophie, the standout candidate I'd been impressed with earlier, looked torn between sympathy and amusement. To make matters worse, my dad accidentally spilled coffee on the stack of resumes I'd brought, leaving brown stains across several pages. As I scrambled to salvage the situation, I couldn't help but wonder why my family hated me. Okay, maybe hate is too strong a word, but seriously, what had I done to deserve this? After the third interview, I finally snapped. Pulling my family aside during a quick break, I hissed, "What are you guys doing? This is supposed to be my big break, not a reality TV show." They looked genuinely confused, which only fueled my frustration. "We're just trying to help," Mom protested, clutching her tote bag like it was a lifeline. "Help? You're ruining everything." I shot back, gesturing wildly at the chaos behind me. Elliot smirked, clearly enjoying himself way too much. "Relax, Lila. We're giving these candidates a real-world test. How else are they going to handle stress?" His logic was infuriating and oddly valid. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on. Why were they so determined to mess with me? And why now of all times? I didn't have time to dwell on it, though, because the next round of interviews was about to start. Taking a deep breath, I reminded myself that I'd come this far and wasn't about to let my family ruin everything. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. Just when I thought I was ready to throw in the towel, or maybe strangle my brother with his own Hawaiian shirt, I found an unexpected lifeline in Sophie Laurent. She wasn't like the other candidates. While most were either flustered or amused by the circus my family had turned this interview into, Sophie remained calm, cool, and collected. When Elliot accidentally knocked over a glass of water during her session, she simply grabbed some napkins and cleaned it up without missing a beat. At one point, my mom leaned toward her and whispered, "You know, Lila's always been a bit of a perfectionist. Don't let her intimidate you." Sophie smiled politely but then turned to me and said, "I think perfectionism gets a bad rap. It shows dedication. But yeah, balance is key." Her response caught me off guard, not just because it was insightful, but because it felt like she was defending me. For the first time all day, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could salvage this disaster. And if anyone could help me do that, it was Sophie. If I thought things couldn't get worse, I was dead wrong. By the fourth round of interviews, my family had fully embraced their roles as agents of chaos. My mom cornered Mr. Falk during lunch, yes, the CEO, and began regaling him with tales of my childhood. "Oh, Lila was such a smart little girl," she gushed, completely oblivious to how awkward this was for everyone involved. Once, she tried to build a robot out of Legos, but it exploded and set the curtains on fire. Thanks, Mom, for airing my preteen failures in front of the man who held my future in his hands. Meanwhile, Elliot decided it would be hilarious to play voice memos of me practicing interview questions in my bedroom. The sound of my own voice nervously rehearsing lines echoed through the conference room speakers, sending a wave of mortification crashing over me. Some candidates snickered, while others exchanged pitying looks. Even Sophie raised an eyebrow, though she quickly masked it with a sympathetic smile. As for my dad, he somehow managed to lock himself in Mr. Falk's private office, triggering a security alert that brought 2 armed guards rushing in. At this point, I wasn't sure whether to laugh, cry, or start updating my resume. By late afternoon, I'd reached my breaking point. My head throbbed, my patience was non-existent, and I was starting to wonder if quitting mid-interview would actually hurt my career prospects. Spoiler, it definitely would. The final straw came when Gregory, my well-meaning but utterly clueless father, tried to bond with a receptionist by asking about confidential company secrets. Yes, he literally said those words. The receptionist gave him a wary look and immediately reported the conversation to HR. When the HR manager approached me, I thought I was getting fired on the spot. Instead, she asked if everything was okay. I forced a tight-lipped smile and assured her that my family was quirky. Quirky didn't even begin to cover it. As soon as the HR manager walked away, I pulled my family into an empty meeting room. "What is wrong with you people?" I snapped, my voice trembling with frustration. "This isn't some game, it's my life." They looked genuinely shocked, which only made me angrier. How could they not see how much damage they were causing? As the day wore on, something surprising happened. The candidates started stepping up. Sophie took charge, helping me reorganize the schedule and redirect focus back to the interviews. She even suggested splitting the remaining candidates into smaller groups to minimize distractions. Her quick thinking earned her nods of approval from both me and Mr. Falk, who had returned after dealing with my dad's accidental office invasion. Other candidates followed Sophie's lead, pitching in wherever they could. One candidate offered to help clean up the coffee-stained resumes, while another volunteered to keep Elliot occupied by discussing his fantasy football league. It was surreal. These strangers, who should have been competing against each other, were now working together to help me succeed. For the first time that day, I felt a glimmer of pride. Maybe I wasn't entirely alone in this mess after all. During a brief lull between interviews, I overheard a hushed conversation between my mom and dad. "We're losing her, Gregory," Martha whispered, her voice tinged with sadness. "If she gets this job, she'll move away, and we'll never see her again." My heart sank. Was that what this was all about? Fear of losing me? I confronted them later, pulling them aside in the hallway. "Is that why you've been sabotaging me?" I demanded, tears pricking my eyes. "Because you're scared I'll leave?" They exchanged guilty looks before finally nodding. "We just miss you, sweetheart," my dad admitted sheepishly. "But ruining my chances at success isn't going to fix anything." I shot back, my voice cracking. It was infuriating, heartbreaking, and strangely validating all at once. For years, I'd wondered if my family resented my ambition. Now I realized their actions stemmed from love, but misplaced, suffocating love. After my emotional confrontation with my family, something shifted inside me. I realized that while their behavior was infuriating, it came from a place of fear, not malice. But that didn't mean I was going to let them off the hook. If they wanted chaos, fine, I'd give them chaos. Only this time, I would control it. As the next group of candidates filed into the conference room, I decided to lean into the madness. "All right, everyone," I began, addressing both the candidates and my family, who were now sitting sheepishly in the corner. "Let's talk about real-world problem-solving. How would you handle a workplace disruption caused by, say, an overzealous relative?" The candidates exchanged glances, unsure whether I was serious. Sophie smirked, clearly catching on. One candidate raised his hand hesitantly. "I try to turn the distraction into an opportunity for team bonding," he offered. "Great answer," I said, nodding approvingly. Then I turned to my mom. "Mom, care to weigh in?" Her eyes widened in surprise, but she gamely responded, "Well, I suppose if everyone stays calm and works together, even a chaotic situation can become productive." To my astonishment, the candidates started clapping. Suddenly, my family's antics weren't just a liability, they were part of the test. The energy in the room shifted dramatically after that. Candidates began volunteering creative solutions to hypothetical scenarios inspired by my family's earlier disruptions. One suggested organizing impromptu brainstorming sessions during unexpected interruptions, while another proposed using humor to diffuse tension. Even Elliot chimed in at one point, offering a ridiculous yet oddly insightful analogy about fantasy football drafts and crisis management. Sophie took the lead again, proposing a system where employees could rotate roles during high-pressure situations to ensure no single person bore the brunt of the stress. Her idea impressed not only me, but also Mr. Falk, who had quietly re-entered the room to observe. He gave me a subtle thumbs up, which boosted my confidence more than I cared to admit. For the first time all day, I felt like I was actually nailing this interview process, family chaos and all. Just when I thought things were finally under control, my mom decided to take matters into her own hands. During a break, she pulled Sophie aside and accused her of manipulating me. "You're too smooth," Mom whispered loudly enough for half the room to hear. "What are your intentions with my daughter?" Sophie blinked, clearly caught off guard, but recovered quickly. "Mrs. Hartman," she said firmly, "your daughter doesn't need protecting from me. She needs support from people who believe in her, not sabotage her dreams." The room fell silent. My jaw dropped as Sophie stood her ground, defending me with a fierceness that left even my mom speechless. For a moment, I thought Martha might double down, but instead, she sighed and muttered, "Fine. You win." It was a small victory, but it meant everything. Sophie had earned not just my respect but my loyalty. Later that evening, after the last candidate had left and the office was quiet, I gathered my family in the conference room for one final conversation. Today was supposed to be about proving myself. I began, my voice trembling with emotion. Instead, it became about survival. Do you have any idea how hard it is to chase your dreams when the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally keep pulling you back? My words hung heavy in the air. My mom looked close to tears, my dad stared at the floor, and Elliot fidgeted uncomfortably. Finally, Martha spoke up. We never meant to hurt you, sweetheart. We don't want to lose you. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability in her eyes. It broke my heart, but it also gave me hope. Maybe we could rebuild our relationship without sacrificing my ambitions. To my surprise, my family didn't just apologize, they took action. When Mr. Falk returned to congratulate me on a successful day, my mom stepped forward and shook his hand. Thank you for giving my daughter this chance, she said sincerely. She deserves every bit of success coming her way. My dad nodded vigorously, adding, and if you ever need someone to fix your Wi-Fi or lock themselves out of your office, I'm your guy. Even Elliot managed to redeem himself by handing me a folded piece of paper. I made this for you, he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. It was a crude but heartfelt drawing of me standing confidently in front of a crowd, captioned, Boss Lady Extraordinaire. Despite everything, I couldn't help but laugh and hug him tightly. With the interviews officially over, I met privately with Mr. Falk to discuss the candidates. Unsurprisingly, Sophie topped my list. She's brilliant, adaptable, and has incredible leadership potential. I told him, my enthusiasm spilling over. Plus, she handled today's chaos better than anyone else. Mr. Falk agreed wholeheartedly, praising my ability to navigate such a challenging situation. When I informed Sophie of her selection later that week, she thanked me with genuine gratitude. You didn't just hire me, you taught me how to stay calm under pressure, she said. And maybe how to deal with nosy relatives. We both laughed, and in that moment, I knew we'd make a great team. The days following the interviews were a blur of emotions, relief, exhaustion, and a strange sense of accomplishment. As I sat in my apartment that evening, sipping chamomile tea, because caffeine at this hour felt like tempting fate, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. My family's antics had nearly derailed my career, but somehow, they'd also forced me to grow in ways I hadn't anticipated. For years, I'd prided myself on being the perfect planner, the one who could anticipate every obstacle and prepare for it. But life, as I'd learned the hard way, doesn't always follow a neatly outlined script. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is adapt, improvise, and trust the people around you, even if those people include your chaotic family. I realized then that success isn't just about achieving goals. It's about finding balance between ambition and relationships. And maybe, just maybe, my family wasn't entirely terrible at supporting me. They just had a very unconventional way of showing it. Sophie officially joined Vanguard Innovations 2 weeks later, and from day one, she proved herself to be an invaluable asset. Her ability to think outside the box and her knack for diffusing tension made her a natural leader. During our first team meeting, she proposed a monthly chaos drill where employees would practice handling unexpected disruptions, inspired, unsurprisingly, by my family's antics. You never know when someone's mom might show up unannounced, she joked, earning laughter from the team. It was lighthearted, yes, but there was truth in her words. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes the best preparation comes from embracing the chaos rather than fighting it. Watching Sophie take charge reminded me why I'd chosen her and why I belonged in this role. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly confident in my abilities. My relationship with my family didn't transform overnight, but it began to heal in small, meaningful ways. My mom started sending me supportive texts instead of unsolicited advice, "You've got this, sweetheart," and my dad called weekly to check in, not to meddle, but to genuinely see how I was doing. Even Elliot toned down his sarcasm, though he still teased me relentlessly about my boss lady persona. One Saturday afternoon, they invited me over for dinner, a rare occasion since we usually ended up arguing within 10 minutes. This time, however, things felt different. We laughed, shared stories, and even reminisced about the interview day. "I still can't believe you spilled coffee all over those resumes," I said to my dad, shaking my head. He grinned sheepishly. "Hey, desperate times call for desperate measures." It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Slowly but surely, we were learning how to support each other without letting fear or insecurity get in the way. As regional director, I threw myself into my new role with renewed energy. Under Mr. Falk's guidance, I helped spearhead several key initiatives that positioned Vanguard Innovations as a leader in its industry. The hiring process I'd overseen became a case study for creative problem-solving, and I was invited to speak at conferences about leadership and resilience. But perhaps the most rewarding part of my job was mentoring Sophie. Together, we tackled challenges, celebrated victories, and navigated the occasional workplace drama. She often joked that she owed her success to my family's unique approach to job interviews, and while I rolled my eyes, I secretly agreed. Without their interference, I might never have discovered my own strength or found someone as remarkable as Sophie to share this journey with. Life eventually returned to a semblance of normalcy, or as normal as it could be for someone like me. My family continued to pop into my life unexpectedly, but their visits were less disruptive and more endearing. They even attended my promotion ceremony, behaving themselves remarkably well, though Elliot did sneakily swipe a bottle of champagne. Looking back, I realized that the day of the interviews had been a turning point, not just for my career, but for my personal growth. I'd learned to set boundaries without shutting people out, to embrace imperfection without losing sight of excellence, and to find humor in situations that once seemed unbearable. Most importantly, I discovered that success isn't a solo endeavor. It's built on the connections we nurture along the way. Months later, I received an email from Sophie with the subject line, "You're going to love this." Intrigued, I opened it to find a link to a podcast episode titled, "The Day My Boss's Family Crashed My Interview." My stomach sank as I clicked play. Sure enough, Sophie's voice filled my headphones, recounting the entire ordeal in vivid detail. I'll never forget walking into that conference room and seeing Lila Hartman trying to maintain her composure while her brother hacked into the projector and her mom offered unsolicited salary advice, she said, laughing. It was absolute chaos, but also the most authentic test of leadership I've ever experienced. At first, I was furious. How could she expose something so personal without asking me? But as I listened further, I realized the tone of the podcast wasn't mocking. It was celebratory. Listeners praised my professionalism, my quick thinking, and my ability to turn a disaster into an opportunity. By the end of the episode, I found myself smiling. The podcast went viral almost overnight, catapulting both Sophie and me into the spotlight. Media outlets reached out for interviews, and Vanguard Innovations saw a surge in applications from top talent eager to join our unconventional team. The exposure brought unexpected benefits, including a book deal for me to write about leadership lessons learned from navigating chaos. Ironically, the very thing I'd feared most, public humiliation, became the catalyst for my greatest achievements. Sophie apologized profusely when she saw my initial reaction, but I forgave her quickly. After all, she'd turned what could have been a mortifying experience into a story of triumph. The final chapter of this wild ride came 6 months later when I stood on stage at a TED Talk event, addressing hundreds of people. Success isn't about avoiding obstacles, I began, my voice steady and confident. It's about facing them head-on, even when those obstacles are your own family crashing your big break. I shared my story with honesty and humor, emphasizing the importance of resilience, vulnerability, and the power of unlikely allies. When I concluded with the line, "Sometimes, the people we think are holding us back are actually pushing us forward in ways we never expected," the audience erupted into applause. As I stepped off the stage, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. My journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. And as I hugged my mom, Dad, and Elliot, who had flown in to watch the talk, I knew one thing for certain. No matter how chaotic life gets, love and ambition can coexist. And that's the story of how my family tried to ruin my job interview, but ended up helping me find my truest self. Thanks for sticking around.